Hi everyone, it's nice to be here with you again. I'm sorry I was missing for the past two webinars. Um, I've been having my online classes and the schedules, they're a bit between the webinars and my classes. This time we're gonna have Rodrigo Sanchez, our external affairs assistant for the Americas with a very interesting topic. It's external affairs overviews. So please, Rodri, I welcome you and I thank you for being here today. You have the floor.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. Hello, dear region. It is really nice to be talking to you this time about a topic that is maybe kind of left out in some contexts at the local and national levels, which is external affairs, and which is extremely important for the development of our organizations. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Yeah, I think it's visible. So external affairs. What are we going to talk about today? External affairs at a glance, IFMSA and the United Nations. Oh, let's wait 1 minute so people can join. Okay, so hi Tamidez. Um, hello everybody again. My name is Rodrigo Sanchez Iturregui, your current external affairs regional assistant for the Americas. And today we're going to talk this aspect of our organizations, which is sometimes left out, but it is uh, really important for the development of our associations, which is external affairs. What are we going to talk about today? External affairs at a glance, the, the relationship between IFMSA and the United Nations, some basics about policy documents and basics because we have another webinar coming next week about it specifically. Other documents that may serve our external affairs purposes, IFMSA events where we can engage in external affairs related issues, and also some of the most recent and important external meetings we've attended. So first up, external affairs at a glance, right? So as you may already know, our federation present in the 5 continents of our globe is pretty diverse. So this is what turns into a great asset of ours. Why? Because we got the capacity to influence decisions at different levels. This is local, national, and international ones, be it through local awareness raising campaigns, lobbying strategies at the national level, or high-level interventions at meetings we're invited to or that we attend deliberately as well. Here we must mention the concept of IFMSA, and something that is deeply rooted in our vision and mission, which is our advocacy efforts, linked to the different types of advocacy that exist, which are lobbying and campaigning. As of now, on a year basis, IFMSA attends more than 100 high-level meetings, conferences, events in different regions on different areas related to our standing committees or more globally. And what do we do there? We do not attend meetings because just we think it's interesting. And so, no, there's a lot of thorough pre-analysis that comes in when establishing objectives and outcomes for attending this meeting. Is this really beneficial for us, as I often say? Is this possible to replicate at the national level to bring more context to our NMOs? And so this is mainly how we engage with these meetings, which are some of the most important, maybe the most renowned: the World Health Assembly, the WHO Executive Board meeting, the World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, the Climate Change Summit, the summit which is also named as COP, and the Prince Mahidol Award Conference. We are going to talk about those later on, so don't worry. IFMSA is really recognized by our stakeholders in different meetings because of our advocacy efforts. Why is this? Because generally talking, medical curricula around the globe lacks a key component of the future health leader, which is advocacy skills. And definitely IFMSA leads its way in different meetings, showing off to the different ministries, medical entities, national and international ones, that we have this as one of our strengths, and also show this by portraying that policies are the backbone of our advocacy strategies. And a hallmark I must mention right now is that starting from May 2012, we carried out our first youth pre and also attended the 65th World Health Assembly. Why is this so important? Because this workshop is one of the most detailed ones that has invited facilitators from also very recognized institutions and UN, WHO agencies and so. And it's really important because of this. As of now, 2019, we are currently on the 9th edition of this workshop. And something I don't get tired of telling everyone about external affairs is that in IFMSA we're committed to finding solutions. So what does this mean? That external affairs must not be as isolated from internal affairs. What does this specifically mean? That they are very narrowly interrelated. We cannot offer external partners assets we do not possess. And reversely, we cannot pretend our members to grow if we do not get more and more opportunities day by day in the external sphere. Another way of seeing this is that our capacity building efforts when educating students develop the skills and capacities as well as grow the knowledge of our participants, our members, to have a greater impact in our external affairs fields, which is meetings and also policy-making processes at the national and international levels. This directly feeds back to the capacity building opportunities we may have available in the near or distant future. So going on, in line with our vision and mission, we must highlight the first one, which is a world in which all medical students unite for global health and are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and values to take on health leadership roles locally and globally. As you can see here in bold, equipped means the articulation of our internal components into forming health leadership roles. This also means that our members who attend external meetings also learn from each other on the ground, which feeds back directly onto what they can implement back in the NMOs. And in regards to our mission, IFMSA unites medical students worldwide to lead initiatives that impact positively the communities we serve. IFMSA represents the opinions and ideas of future health professionals in the field of global health and works in collaboration with external partners. IFMSA builds capacity through training, project exchange opportunities while embracing cultural diversity as to shape a sustainable and healthy future. In the first line of our mission, they stated, impact positively the communities we serve. This has many parts in which it gets done. Starting from networking that can definitely give you very fruitful contacts for your work at the NMO level. Also for networking with other students and for learning, gaining skills that can be further spreaded with your members back in your country. And talking about future health professionals, what we must never forget is that we do use our policy stances in external meetings. We do put into practice our global priorities. They are followed up after them. So we do have a sense of purpose when talking about the documents we do have currently. And this translates into what we think the future should be related to the health area, be it internationally or nationally. Why? Because we are the doctors, we will be the doctors that will face the effects these policies have today on our different stakeholders. And talking about external partners, we do relate with very influential ones, and we'll see that later on. So who is involved in external affairs in our federation? First up, of course, our VP, who is in charge of overseeing all the processes in this area, delegations, policy procedures, coordination with our liaison officers, which are 6, just to remember, for SCORP, SCOF, SCOMI, and SCORA. We got a dedicated LO, and for the exchanges committees, we got as well LME, who dedicates work to their areas. Additionally to these 4, we got our LOSO, Liaison Officer for Student Organizations, and our LWHO for the World Health Organization. They do engage and share and keep working on new initiatives regarding externals in their areas of expertise, of course. Our regional directors are also very engaged in external affairs at the regional level. And starting from this term, also the External Affairs International team. Program coordinators and regional assistants also provide a lot of useful and very impactful data to be presented at external meetings and to be thought of when elaborating or updating policies before our general assemblies. And the most are, of course, engaged. Why? Because the stance we represent as federation is the one that represents the very same of all of our NMOs at the global level. And at the very end of it, also our IFMSA members, who are the ones who carry all the motivation that boosts and translates into the very, very uh, impact that we can have as a federation. Which are some of our externals, just to mention? The United Nations, the World Health Organization, the the World Medical Association, the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNAIDS, the United Nations Fund for Population, the World Organization of Family Doctors, ICRC, the Global Climate and Health Alliance, IPAS, which really supports us in SCORA, capacity building spaces, the Global Health Workforce Network, which develops itself under the auspices of WHO as well, NCD Alliance, the World Federation of Medical Education, Amnesty International, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, and FEPA FAMS at the regional level specifically. How we relate with the United Nations as IFMSA. It's something quite interesting. So we must recall that IFMSA exists since the post-World War II period since 1951. And just some years ago, we do have a special consultative status to the ECOSOC, which is the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, one of the 6 organs the UN has. What does this mean? This consultative status is the highest of its type that the UN grants NGOs with. Today, we are one of more than 4,000 NGOs who are registered with consultative status as well. And what does this translate into? That we got a lot of rights to participate in their work and the one of the specialized agencies, programs, funds. As of this consultative status, we're also required to report in each 4 years to the ECOSOC, very briefly, on our activity that's related to the objectives of the ECOSOC. As you can see, these are some of the main United Nations programs and funds we have engaged with, such as the United Nations Environment Program, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, United Nations Fund for Children, UN Women, also some specialized agencies as the International Labour Organization, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, WHO, definitely, and the regional commission of the ECOSOC in Latin America and the Caribbean, which is ECLAC. Now, we definitely must recall that the most important one is WHO, with which we have carried out several initiatives, and also we do attend not only the World Health Assembly that takes place every year during May in Geneva, but also all of the regional committee directing councils of every region. Now let's go on to some basics about our policy documents. What are they, firstly? As per our bylaws, they are the stance of our federation in different topics or issues. They expire after a period of 3 years. They can be about emergent topics of the global context. Maybe some of them need updating, Some of them are expiring. Other ones can be linked directly to global priorities. And what we must remember straightforwardly, just talking about basics, is that the impact of our policies is that we have a systematic advocacy approach. It's different than me as Rodrigo. I can approach some national ministry office to try to advocate for changing a certain problematic that is present there, than approaching as an organization that's composed of several members. This has definitely much more impact. So our new policy system exists since August meeting 2016, which took place in Mexico. And talking generally, what does this new system describe? The parts of our policy documents. Firstly, we have a policy statement, which is very short and concise. This highlights the position directly of IFMSA in different fields. This statement does not exceed 2 pages. It includes the background, which translates basically into which is the rationale we have adopted as IFMSA for why to have a stance on this topic. Then the stance itself and the call to action. The position paper is a much more detailed document that supports the related policy statement, which has all of the specific references and also describes every sub area that relates to the topic of the policy. For elaborating these two parts of the policy document, we do have policy commissions. As you may have seen recently within our networks and servers, we have not yet opened policy commissions, but yes, small working groups. We're going to talk about that a little later. And we do have some checkpoints during time for policy documents. So as you can see, this is January/June. Why is this so? Because the first one is for March meeting and the latter for the August meeting. So we must focus right now more on the second one. The first checkpoint is June 10th, for which date we should already have a draft of the policy statement, the position paper, and the policy commission composition as well. For July 1st, after all the work this policy commission may have already done, we submit a final version of these two parts of the policy document. And until July 19th, all of our NMOs have time to propose amendments. One thing that we must take into account is that after this deadline, all amendments must be handled during plenaries, during general assemblies, which is not very efficient time-wise. So this is why it is highly advised to follow this timeline we've already established from some years ago. How can you be involved? As I was mentioning to you, some small working groups, policy commissions. Yeah, so we recently opened the call for small working groups that are to write the policies and then hand this work to the policy commissions. What's the main difference? Is that policy commissions are primarily focused on polishing all the work that has already been which small working groups have already undergone. And then these policy commissions do propose the policy drafts. And as for you to know, keep an eye out for the policy commission's goal, because the policy small working group's goal is already closed. NMOs can definitely propose policy documents and suggest the composition of the commissions. You can always reach out to us, the international team of external affairs, or the liaison officers for further assistance. There's always an input period for the drafts that are being planned for each General Assembly. So also be attentive of these periods. They tend to happen during the last month before the General Assembly is going to take place in. And also, definitely, strive to use our policy documents at the national and local level, be it to use them as a source, maybe to your national policy stances, or just translate them because you can do this to advocate at the national level with your different stakeholders, be it governmental, be it and non-governmental, such as NGOs, such as the private sector as well. They are there for you as a tool. And also they can be implemented at a local level. Let's remember our policy documents within the call to action section. There's one that's also directed at NMOs and members. And usually this part includes recommendations such as carrying out awareness raising activities related to the topic, try to build the capacity of medical students on the very same topic, and so there are different suggestions there. So we talked about policy documents very briefly. Which other documents do we have that can be very valuable for our work within external affairs? As you may have heard, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which has 17 goals, and definitely is one we must take into account because the whole world, not only at the international level, but our ministries at the national level do know about this agenda and do plan the working year basing themselves on some points of this agenda. You can definitely also look out for resources by your country, trying to report the different goals related to this. Also, our global priorities. Just as a very quick point of information, our very first set of global priorities was established in 2018 in the August meeting, and was a transformation from a previous document we had, which was called the GFAS, the Global External Focus Areas. As the name says, it only described external priorities, but not internal. And as I already mentioned to you in the very first slides, external affairs do relate a lot with internal ones. And that's why, starting from this year, we have global priorities, which have internal and external objectives. And also, we must take into account that given they are very new, our team of officials at the international level is definitely analyzing how they have yielded results for us to enhance them at the international level and to make much more sense for our NMOs at the national one. From the next year, 2019, we established the Americas regional priorities, which also have internal, external objectives. These both global and regional ones are a set of focus areas and overarching concepts for focusing our work and enhancing our human resources for having a much impactful way of acting in different spheres. our policy talks, and also in our region, we have regional policy plans. As of now, we have one on human resources for health, which is also uh, an international policy document. So basically, what are these for? Previously, these were called the regional implementation plans. Why? Because they tried to set forth a way of implementing action at the regional level, starting from the international stance. Does this make sense? Yeah, so basically, this is what regional policy plans do. Try to set the road for easing up action at the regional level. And we'll have more news about our human resources for health, RPP, in the upcoming weeks. Now, which are some IFMSA events where we can learn various stuff about external affairs and also get engaged with the stuff itself? Our general assemblies, definitely. Our March meeting, our August meeting, our August meeting. Um, uh, we must remember that for each one of these GAs, we have policy processes that go on and have different policy proposals. So it's very valuable to be attentive to these times. Also, previous to the GAs, we have these days during which we carry out different workshops for building the capacity of our members on different topics. Most of them do include a component on advocacy or policy, external affairs, planning that definitely helps you out in this area, such as the public health leadership training, the global health advocates. We must remember this is the flagship IFMSA external affairs workshop because we cover here a lot of elements related to the 2030 agenda, introduction to governance and global health, policy making, how to approach externals, negotiation, simulations of external meetings, and so on and so forth. The LEAD as well is a workshop that is representative of our region in the Americas, which is an acronym for Leadership, Empowerment, Advocacy, and Development. As you can see, this one includes a heavy component of external affairs, relating it to the internal other areas that are inherent to our organizations. Another that's standing committee related as well, similarly to the PHOT, is the HIT, the HIV Education and Advocacy Training. During General Assemblies, since some terms ago, we started delivering a new stream of sessions parallelly to standing committee ones and presidents, which is the NMO management ones, which covers different areas. One of them, external affairs. During our GAs, there are several spaces for discussing the policies being proposed and also amendments to be incorporated upon adoption. The theme event, which has almost always as invited speakers very renowned people from, for example, WHO, WFME, different specialized agencies of the United Nations as well. And about the theme event is very important for us because it helps to make us know about the approach these organizations have and how to elaborate our own strategies when trying to deal with them. Training sessions. Also, we have regional sessions in our GAs, and some of them can include the external affairs agenda and definitely the plenaries. Here are some pictures where you can see, for example, our August meeting 2019 in Taiwan, a plenary, Very probably this could be a scenario where they are voting upon some policy proposal. And in the second picture, our most recent GA, MM 2020 in Rwanda. And this picture was taken right after our original session. As you can see, all of our flags are there. Which is another event, our regional meeting. This one takes place in January. We have as well a pre-event with different workshops, similarly to our pre-GAs. We have sessions on external affairs as well. We have sessions on our priorities. We're talking mainly about regional priorities, global priorities, related specifically about the external objectives. Theme event, trainings too, the plenary simulations as well. And this picture is from our very last regional meeting, which took place in Curitiba, Brazil, this last January. Now we're going to go over some of the main and latest external meetings we've attended. But first, how do I get to know about these opportunities related to external meetings? First up, don't forget to join the IFMSA servers at this direction that you can see. You can also browse our webpage and find it very quickly. We have a general server, also for standing committees and regional ones. We are very active as well when it comes to sharing opportunities on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Something heavily important for you to take into account is that Twitter is the main platform of communication at external meetings, and it helps out a lot when promoting side events, when sharing, when networking at the event itself. It helps you to link to people very, very directly using hashtags and so. So, as for you to know, some of the meetings that we attended since our previous term, which is 1819. For example, the FEPA-FEMPA-FAMS Pan-American Conference on Medical Education, which took place in Colombia. The World Federation of Medical Education World Conference in South Korea in April 2019. The ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council Youth Forum, we do have a space for us, which takes place yearly in April in New York. As well, during the month of April, last year we attended the third forum of the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean on sustainable development. This one was organized by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. Remember, it's the regional commission of the ECOSOC, and we had a very good opportunity of organizing a side event to show our view of us as medical students committed to working towards SDG 3, the Sustainable Development Goal 3, which is health and well-being for all. Additionally, we attended the regional meeting, the regional conference, of the World Organization of Family Doctors in Mexico, as well the 72nd World Health Assembly, and we organized a pre-workshop as well last May in Geneva. Here a picture of that workshop. Going on, also we attend high-level political forums, usually on the follow-up of the SDG agenda. They are structured as to follow up on the goals systematically. Like these HLPFs do not cover the whole agenda meeting by meeting. but by sets of goals, usually 4 or 5 in New York. Last July, also there was the International AIDS Conference in Mexico, which was a really good space to which some members of our region also had the chance to attend. And it brought very good opportunities for networking and further collaboration at the national level. The AMI conference. The AMI is the International Association for Medical Education, the greatest of its area. So in this conference, there are several spaces for discussing on the new methods for medical education. And as of now, just as another point of information, they are being very active in regards of medical education in the new context in which we are situated today, which is the pandemic. Last year, this took place in Vienna. We also attended United Nations General Assemblies. These ones take place in September in New York. High-level meetings. For example, last year we attended the one on universal health coverage, which happens to be one of the overarching concepts of our global priorities. And this high-level meeting takes place during the GA itself. And related to our region, we attended the regional committee that took place by the end of September 2019 in Washington, D.C. Now, now this finished. This was the last meeting for our last term, and starting with the current one, the 146th WHO Executive Board meeting, which took place from February 3rd to 8th, all as well in Geneva. We had a delegation present there that delivered different statements on different agenda points. Networking opportunities as well were present. And as you can see, this is how the executive board looks like. As for you to know, the executive board of WHO meets twice a year. First, by the end of January, beginning of February, and the second time right after the World Health Assembly. This is by the end of May. They do follow up on the different matters that are to be discussed during WHA itself and also to be executed after WHA. As well, we have the Prince Mahidol Award Conference, which took place this last January and is focused on universal health coverage. Our VP and LPH were present there. This last December, we were present in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP25, that took place in Madrid, Spain. We have quite a big delegation of 8 people distributed into 2 weeks. During the first one, for example, we performed the so-called actions for having a higher impact into on the people that attended the event. Of course, these actions were predominantly carried out by young people, us included. We had spaces during which we facilitated sessions for different stakeholders present. We delivered different surveys for carrying out further research and distributed policy briefs, which are basically summaries of our policy stances. In this meeting, we utilized the ones on climate change in medical curriculum, climate change and health, gender and climate change, as well as food for health and sustainability. In November, We also participated in the 25th International Conference on Population and Development, ICPD, which basically serves as means of following up on the Beijing Declaration that settles the rights of gender equality. This one took place in Nairobi, Kenya. Our World Health Summit in 2019, which is a very, very renowned space for networking with directors of the agencies of the United Nations. As well, our delegation got to meet the former Director General of WHO, Margaret Chan. And as of today, May 2020, given the pandemic, our pre-World Health Assembly workshop was adapted to an online version as a forum. Why? Because as well, WHA, given the commands of WHO, was adapted to a virtual format. The agenda was modified a bit to fit into 2 days. And yeah, this was carried out during these last days, as you may have seen in our servers too. Here, a flyer of the call that was sent out some months ago. And the star of the show today. What's on right now? What's on with our external meetings and so? They are being either cancelled or postponed, being the different circumstances. You just got to be attentive of the news communicated by our liaison officers, by BPE as well, or further updates. And as a last word, remember that external affairs are there to project the voices of our members into the reality we seek to change, to have a positive impact on. So raise up your voice, and for any other concern, you can always reach out to me. Any questions? Let me check here in the chat. Okay, so we have a question from Santiago Bravo, BP from IMP Ecuador. What is the right way to approach the WHO as NMO? Okay, so this is always a very, this is a question I get asked often. And when it comes to WHO, first you got to do your research. I'm talking mainly right now of the pandemic context. You got to research the priorities of your WHO national office and also think very well of what do you want to get from WHO, what possible future means of collaboration you can foresee. When you have done this, you got to gather contact information, be it in your national registries or also the ones we can provide you with from the regional and international levels. We have some resources that can ease up your approach to them. One tip I do always have is to integrate both the research you make by your own and the resources we have as IFMSA to compose an initial message that's impactful for the person from the WHO office that will read your message, so they know you as an organization are aware of them and what they are working. And they, in this way, they will know you are an organization that it's worth holding a meeting with. That's when it comes to WHO. And specifically in our context in the pandemic, we should definitely not expect very quick answers because WHO is very busy with trying to handle the COVID-19 situation all together with governments and the headquarters in Geneva. So try try to keep doing your research during these upcoming weeks, months, and later on, you can definitely have more availability from their side to reply to you. Another question from Siana Lunan, who is VP from JAMSA, Jamaica. How can we actively represent students even if they have an existing body or persons at the university who act in that capacity? Or how can we coexist without compromising our role as NMO? Okay, I'm trying to figure out the question. Okay, so Sienna, you're mainly talking about just within your university, not at the national level, because sometimes at the national means just one university. Could you further specify that so I can answer your question in brief? Meanwhile, I'll read the other question from, okay. Anonymous, I was wondering what happened to the Human Resources for Health Regional Policy Plan. So our regional policy plan is one that's being followed up upon. And during these weeks and months, we'll have further actions to be carried out and will be communicated timely. One thing that we must take into account is that this RPP, this document, had some components that needed yet to be modified from the original version because some deadlines and objectives needed further, how do we say this, incorporation and synergy with other documents we manage currently, which are the priorities mainly talking about them. Question from Nicole Vasquez, IFMSA Peru. How can someone be part of these external meetings? Is that cool? Okay, so regarding external meetings, as I told you, you can check out always our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We always diffuse opportunities via these channels. However, the primary one, the one that's always fastest, is our general server and also our regional one and so on. So we have a slide here just for showing you. This one, yeah. So go to this very first link, ifmsa.org/sign up, and you will find the instructions for subscribing yourself to the servers. It is as simple as sending an empty email to the email address ifmsa-general-subscribe@yahoogroups.com. And that will be it, and you will be subscribed in brief. So Sienna is rephrasing. Okay, so the question is being withdrawn. Well, I'll try to answer as I get this. How can we actively represent students if they have an existing body or persons at the university who act in that capacity? How can we coexist without compromising our roles in the MMO? You can. What is key is communication with these existing bodies or persons at your university, because having conflicts with them, being opposed, will not be beneficial for you at all. So communication is basic for that. Just try to do that and keep your stance, and your NMO will I'm sure you will work on different initiatives for communicating better with them. And also as a tip on that, try to Look on the history of your NMO. Ask the ones who were in your position before if they had previously tried to deal with these existing bodies, and if they try to do any joint initiative, whether if they were successful or not, if yes or not, why. And in this manner, you can better strategize on how to approach them today. Question from Carlos Sanchez, IFMSA Peru. What is the correct way to communicate with other student organizations of my NMO to work interprofessional education? Okay, thank you for the question. Interprofessional education is a concept that's being highly worked on in our federation nowadays. It's actually included in one of our policy documents. And what's it mainly about? It defines the concept of health as not limited to to the medical profession. It's definitely related to all the healthcare professions as well, be it nurses, veterinary students, um, pharmacy students, um, as assistant nurses, etc. So first you got to do a stakeholder mapping at the national level. This is very, very advisable to be carried out primarily by your national vice president for external affairs in coordination with the members that are related to the national work as well, to find out on, on these organizations, these other student organizations at the national level. And as similarly to what I described when trying to deal with WHO offices, do your research. This is important when approaching any externals. What is the mission? What is the vision, the objectives, and so, and think clearly, what do you want to get from them? What possible ways of joint collaborations you can see, you can foresee, and so on. In this way, you can go with a much more solid proposal and dynamize the future agreements you may have. Okay, so Siana is rephrasing. The faculty has its own committee of students that have a representative from each program, including one that represents the medical students to the faculty and to the university. From Siana as well, how can our local committee be an active part of the student representation? Okay, so now I get the point. Apparently, your university already has a very structured way in which to engage students in the processes, decisions, etc. So what I would advise would first to approach this representative of your program, your medical program, I'm inferring, it is that one, and try to coordinate with them to represent the interests of your local committee or your NMO in front of this whole body that interacts directly with your faculty and university. If this doesn't quite work out, the second way I would suggest you manage this situation is to communicate yourself directly with your university, with your faculty, to promote further ways of collaboration, to set forth your stance as a medical students organization and your will to work in conjunction as well with this representative of the program of your career. I hope that could have solved the question as well. Yeah. So I think those were all the questions. Good. So just for finishing up as well, remember guys, external affairs is something very, very, very important for the development of our NMOs in a holistic way, integrally. Yes, so always try to build the capacity of your members on this, engage your members in the processes you carry out, because only in this way you have the impact you want to have in your national, international contexts and achieve your objectives in the long term. Also, don't forget about Huanca IPSFs. Okay, no, not that. So that would be it. As okay, some final comments that will be given by our capacity building regional assistant.
Thank you, Rodri, for this amazing webinar. I hope, guys, that you now have the knowledge and the tools to make an effort in external representation within your communities as students, as individuals, and as future healthcare professionals. I just want to remember, guys, that we are still on the call for the trainers pool, and the deadline is on May 31st at 23:59 GMT. Please apply if you are willing. If you want to be part of the session team of any IFMSA official event, such as an RM, GA, pre-GA, and SRT, obviously. For next Friday, we have a very, very special webinar. It's going to be with the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Students. So I invite you thoroughly for you to come and join us on Friday, and more information will be posted throughout the Facebook group with the specific poster of the webinar, and a little bit of more information about this webinar. Please, if you have any questions relating external affairs or any other topics that we've been delivering throughout the month of May, please do not hesitate on contacting any of the trainers or the facilitators, me or our RD, Maria Jose, that we will gladly help you and clear them out. So bye guys, see you